The story begins in Tokyo, Japan, where the streets are in ruins, no building left standing, and people survive only inside shelters while the army floods every corner under emergency law. The reason? A rare, terrifying species called Gastria. Their brutality keeps the whole population trembling in fear. Suddenly, fighter jets roar above the city, but instead of hope, disaster strikes when one explodes mid-air and a gigantic Gastria descends, tearing through soldiers and tents, killing countless people, including the family of a little boy named Sadami. Shocked and broken, he hears a voice inside telling him, "If you can't escape, then fight." Those words ignite a burning rage in his heart, pushing him to train with one vow. One day, he'll liberate the city with his own hands. 10 years later, Satomi has become an officer in a special security agency called Tendo, trained to exterminate Gastria. On a mission, he arrives alone, clearly hot-tempered, and unlike other officers who are always paired with cursed children, young girls infected with Gastria powers, hated and feared by society, Satomi has none with him because he left his partner behind after she fell on the way. Inside, he encounters gruesome corpses and then a terrifying enemy in a red suit and mask, one of the strongest Gastria called Hiruko. Their fight shows the overwhelming difference in strength, yet Satomi manages to strike him hard enough to get noticed. Hiruko, impressed, introduces himself and declares that the end of the world will come by his hands before leaving. As no Gastria were present, Rentaro urgently tells Tadashima to order evacuations and seal the area, and just then, his young partner Enju appears, reminding him of the true threat. As a nearby infected victim mutters, and the Gastria virus rapidly spreads within her body. Suddenly, the creature's limbs began contracting at a speed beyond common sense, sprouting black horns before its body twisted into the form of a massive spider. It spat out sticky white mucus, binding Enju before kicking her away violently, and just then Rentaro rushed in. Normal bullets only excited Gastria further. Only special forged bullets could suppress their regeneration. But after a few shots, Rentaro's gun was empty, and as Enju's eyes turned red from the struggle, the spider opened its gaping maw and charged fiercely at him, only for Enju to kick it apart into pieces, then mock Rentaro and even tease him right in front of the police officers. When she reminded him about the big supermarket sale where bean sprouts were only 6 yen, Rentaro suddenly panicked and ran off, forgetting his payment entirely. Soon, a new figure appeared before him, a beautiful woman dressed in black, Tendo Kisara, the daughter of the Tendo family who adopted Rentaro and now president of the Tendo security agency where he works. But today, she was furious. Not only did Rentaro's failure to collect payment leave the company with zero income, he also hadn't told her about the sale, and now she was starving. Rentaro, thinking fast, came up with an idea. The spider was only a transformed host, and the true Gastria source was still missing. So he went to consult a doctor but was startled by a corpse falling suddenly. The doctor explained that the Gastria virus rewrites and corrodes DNA, and once the infection exceeds 50%, the host loses its human form, though some manifest original abilities during the process. Yet Rentaro cared more for cheap bean sprouts than the doctor's food, and later that night, after dinner and Enju's playful greetings, he injected her with a special serum to suppress the virus inside her. Enju, spreading her arms wide for attention, was ignored and in frustration smacked him with a playful attack, their quarrels continuing into the morning. On their way to school, Rentaro wished that Enju, a cursed child, could live like a normal girl. Alone, he went to the outskirts, watching other cursed children, the only ones who could truly fight Gastria and humanity's last hope. Soon, inside a chamber filled with Tokyo's top company presidents and ranking security officers, each with their own young cursed partner, a giant screen lit up with the image of a girl, the ruler of Tokyo, the Holy Emperor, accompanied by her advisor Tendo Kikunojo, Kisara's grandfather, and Rentaro's foster father. The Holy Emperor announced a mission: eliminate yesterday's Gastria host and retrieve a mysterious box with a bounty of 10 billion yen. The sum was too high, and suspicions rose about the box's contents, but the Holy Emperor refused to reveal more. Then laughter filled the hall as the masked man appeared, drawing all eyes. Beside him was a cursed child, his knight, and he revealed the box's name, declaring his intent to join this deadly game. Surrounded by gunfire, he stood unmoved, repelling every bullet with crimson tendrils formed from his own organs, before calmly declaring his identity as a former member of the mechanized special forces born from the Gastria War. He then reflected all the bullets back and left Rentaro with a gift box, from which spilled the severed head of a company president. The Holy Emperor raised the stakes. Retrieve the box before the masked man, for inside lay a sealed item that, if misused, would bring Tokyo's annihilation. Later, Rentaro and Enju walked the streets when shouts erupted. Two shop clerks were chasing a red-eyed girl girl, another cursed child. Begging for help, she was grabbed and accused of theft and assault. Enju wanted to help, but Rentaro stopped her, and when the police arrived, Rentaro hoped they would protect her, but their coldness made him lose faith. Taken away, she left only tears in Enju's eyes, who asked Rentaro why he didn't save her. Proclaiming himself a partner of justice, Rentaro chased after her, but too late. The girl lay bleeding. Stricken with regret, he heard her cough, a sign of life, and rushed her to the hospital, saving her though the cost deepened his poverty. Then from the darkness appeared the masked man again, ordering his cursed child Kohina to attack, but Enju blocked the strike. The masked man claimed Tokyo's system was wrong, and even invited Rentaro to join him, but Rentaro's answer was his defiance. Knowing Enju was disguised as a normal student, the masked man warned she would soon learn the reality. The next day at school, just as he predicted, her identity was exposed. The teacher forced her to leave, and when Rentaro rushed home, she was gone. He searched the 39th district, meeting elders who cared for cursed children, but whose words struck his bottom line. Remembering their bond, how a year ago they were introduced by the International Cursed Child Supervisory Agency and slowly learned to rely on each other, Rentaro left quietly, while Enju cried alone in the dark under a soft rain. Still searching, Rentaro found her at school where she was shunned, treated like a slave, her friends turning away. He comforted her, but even in pain, Enju still had to fight, as the roar of helicopter blades drowned the noise of the schoolyard. Enju sat silently inside the helicopter as the infected source, now evolved with an original ability, flew in the sky, and without hesitation she leapt out, landing a crushing kick that sent it crashing down. Her burning eyes glowed as she pierced through all of the Gastria's weaknesses, dodging its constant attacks before slipping beneath its body and delivering a hammer-like strike upward, the final blow shattering it completely. Enju then turned and collapsed into Rentaro's arms, crying bitterly, not only for the pain of battle but also for the humiliation she suffered at school. And Rentaro reassured her with his own heart. But just as he prepared to bring the box back home, a white mask appeared inches away, his face grabbed and flung aside while Enju was blocked by Kohina. Rentaro used all his strength to punch, but his fist smashed into an unbreakable barrier before reaching the masked man, who then fired point blank and released a technique that swelled his aura, crushing Rentaro's body into a rock pool. With blurred vision, he told Enju to run. Helpless, she gave him one last pained look before disappearing into the forest. The duel ended abruptly, angering Kohina, but the masked man ordered her to finish their mission. She glared at Rentaro, her abdomen sprouting blades, and Rentaro's battered body was swept away by the raging river. When he opened his eyes again, he was beneath fluorescent hospital lights surrounded by medics, once again pulled back from death like 10 years ago. Kisara brought grim news. The stolen box contained a catalyst capable of summoning a Stage 5 Gastria, an existence beyond evolution that ignored even the monoliths, responsible for past mass extinctions and now being prepared for release beyond the walls. A government-led large-scale operation was about to begin, and Rentaro readied himself, armed with new weapons and medicine provided by sponsors, while Enju stood firm beside him. They boarded the aircraft toward the danger zone, but the outer Gastria were monstrously strong, and immediately they ran into a Stage 4. Overwhelmed, Enju, carrying rabbit genes, grabbed Rentaro and bolted, narrowly escaping. Following faint firelight in the forest, they met a man named Yasuo, a partner of a hero named Takumu, blessed with dolphin genes and gifted intelligence but timid in battle. He admitted that along the way, his partner had killed other officers to hoard credit, a truth that enraged Rentaro, who grabbed and shoved him to the ground. Though Yasuo's mind could easily form countless rebuttals, he couldn't deny Rentaro's words, a feeling new to him. Suddenly, his radio crackled with a coarse voice ordering them forward. They rushed to the battlefield, gunfire echoing, Gastria swarming behind. Yasuo promised to hold the rear, even to retreat if necessary, while Rentaro and Enju pressed into the center. The scene was carnage, bodies everywhere, and from a ruined house staggered a man mumbling about his sword, still lodged in his own back as he collapsed. Atop a church stood the masked man and Kohina, ready for a final showdown. Rentaro threw everything into breaking the shield and finally landed a punch square on the masked man's face. Memories surged. 10 years ago, Rentaro had lost his right arm, right leg, and left eye protecting Kisara, his mangled body saved only by surgery from a doctor hailed as a miracle worker. The masked man recognized Rentaro's graphs and realized they were once part of the same special mechanized unit. Bleeding heavily but alive, he revealed his purpose: to restart the Gastria War and prove his existence, once more inviting Rentaro to join him. Rentaro refused immediately, and when Enju attempted a sneak attack, the masked man turned his gun and fired, forcing Rentaro to shield her but taking a bullet through his stomach. Seeing Enju cry, he pulled out the doctor's drug, a serum granting regenerative powers like Gastria, but with a 20% chance of turning into one. Without hesitation, he injected all 5 doses, his pupils shifting colors as he gambled everything, and he won. Power surged through him, his kick shattering Kohina's blades and his punch smashing through the shield, sending the masked man flying into the sea where his presence vanished. Relief spread across the survivors, but at that moment came worse news. A Stage 5 Gastria had appeared, a colossal beast walking on the ocean's surface, immune to the military's bombardments. Following Kisara's command, Rentaro raced to the electromagnetic launcher, capable of accelerating a forged spear to supersonic speed strong enough to destroy even Stage 5, but there was no ammunition, and remote loading was impossible due to magnetic interference. With all of Tokyo's fate resting on him, Rentaro looked at his own prosthetic arm, tore it off, and prepared to turn it into the final bullet, knowing a single mistake would doom them all. The great catastrophe loomed, and though Rentaro held the trigger, the weight of consequences froze his hand until Enju shouted encouragement, insisting he could do it. With her faith, he calmed himself, aligned both sights, and fired. The railgun struck dead center, blasting the Stage 5 Gastria apart in a colossal explosion that saved Tokyo from annihilation. Emerging from the facility, Rentaro searched for Yasuo, passing mountains of Gastria corpses until a chilling premonition proved true. He found him slumped against a rock, his white suit soaked in blood, his virus corrosion surpassing 50%. Having proved his existence through Rentaro, Yasuo begged to die as a human, not as a monster, and though Rentaro's trembling hand held the gun, he couldn't do it. Tears in his eyes, he whispered thanks, calling him his irreplaceable friend, the light he never thought he'd feel. Later, Rentaro asked the Holy Emperor why a broken tricycle in the box could summon a Stage 5 and what Gastria truly were, but she gave no answer. Meanwhile, Enju's infection level had reached 42%, and talk of her schooling resurfaced, her secret as a cursed child exposed. She was expelled, and Kisara suggested a school in the outer district, though funds were needed. At that time, an escort mission arose. Osaka's ruler, President Saitake, would visit Tokyo, and with her advisor absent, the Holy Emperor requested Rentaro as her guard. Introduced to the guard captain, Rentaro listened coldly and walked away, only to be dragged at gunpoint into a bathroom by the same captain who threatened him to abandon the mission. Rentaro, unfazed, scared them off and immediately accepted the assignment. Outside, he found 3 thugs harassing a little girl. Flashing his badge sent them fleeing. The child, dirty and wearing loose pajamas, let him wipe her face with his handkerchief before falling asleep in his arms. She introduced herself as Tina Sprout, though claiming to remember little else, and Rentaro gave her his number. She dialed it immediately, said she recalled her apartment and slowly pushed her bike away. But at night, Tina became someone else, an assassin ordered to kill the Holy Emperor. Returning to her apartment, she armed herself and marched out, ignoring a kind policeman who stopped to ask if she was all right, destroying his car under her master's command and leaving him unconscious. Passing the wreck, Rentaro and Enju only sighed before heading home to eat hot pot. But before they could start, the doorbell rang. A coughing girl in kimono collapsed at the entrance. Saitenshi's classmate, Saitenshi Shuma, the student council president and daughter of Sima Heavy Industries, the very company supplying their weapons. No sooner had she spoken than Kisara arrived carrying discounted beef, collapsing right onto her. The two, sworn enemies, immediately clashed at the dinner table, with weapons drawn, Kisara brandishing her blade and Saitenshi countering with an iron fan and gun, while Rentaro and Enju dragged the table out of the way. Soon after, Rentaro joined the Holy Emperor to meet President Saitake. The elevator opened to reveal the Osaka ruler already waiting, a man of charisma and menace. They exchanged formal greetings before he revealed his vision: to eradicate all Gastria, conquer nations by force, and crown himself leader of a new world. Seeking power, he recruited all strong fighters under his banner. Their first meeting ended with tension, Saitake secretly bargaining for weapons from other nations to unify the divided regions, while the Holy Emperor dreamed of reclaiming land peacefully. Rentaro didn't dislike her idealism, and when she blushed thanking him, he almost smiled, until pain jolted his chin as Enju woke suddenly, her face grave. Rentaro spotted a flash on the rooftop, shoved Saitenshi to the ground, and kicked open the car door to drag her out, just as explosions rocked the street. A second flash, then a third, bullets whizzing until Enju kicked them aside, the guards forming a wall as they retreated. On a distant rooftop, Tina calmly reported her progress, unaware she was targeting Rentaro himself as he shielded the ruler. True to her word, Tina called called him the next morning, sweetly handing him takoyaki, spilling some clumsily as he sighed and fed her himself, while she hid another mission from the phone in her pocket: assassinate Kisara Tendo. That night, Kisara armed herself fully, preparing for the coming battle. Rentaro wanted nothing to do with him, but after knocking, a hand suddenly pulled him inside and the door locked behind him. Kisara was ready to break in, but Saitenchi Shoma held out a repair bill as blackmail, making Kisara grit her teeth in fury. He then led Rentaro into his private room, revealing from his investigation that the bullets had been fired from a tall building in the Forbidden Palace, the work of a super sniper, and that compared to such a threat, the Holy Emperor's guard force was laughably weak. Her death could come at any moment. Rentaro asked him to dig into Saitake's background, and though reluctant, he agreed. Just then Kisara broke in, and Shoma, tidying his kimono, teased that Rentaro had promised to switch to his company before skipping away smugly. Later, the doctor called Rentaro and Enju to his lab, congratulating Rentaro for defeating the masked man and rising into the ranks of the top 1,000 promoters, then revealed details about the other geniuses. Once head of Japan's mechanized soldier program, he explained the new human creation plan, a joint project across 4 nations with Australia's Arthur Snack, America's Ayn Rand, Japan's Shugo Hitsugi, and Germany's Albrecht Grunewald. Rentaro had already defeated one of them, Albrecht himself. As Rentaro prepared to leave, the doctor stopped Enju, while Tina was on her way to the Tendo Civil Security Office. Before she could report her master's name, her phone was knocked from her hand and communications cut. Inside, Kisara fumed at Rentaro when suddenly Tina burst in, opening fire. Kisara's blade slashed through the machine gun barrel, but as a mechanized soldier and cursed child knight, Tina's speed and power overwhelmed her. Kisara was soon pinned, her bones creaking under Tina's grip until Rentaro stormed in with a kick. Shock filled him as he realized the enemy before him was Tina. Out of control, she fired wildly. Rentaro struggled to wrestle the gun away, and Kisara seized the moment to stab, their eyes meeting in a brief moment of conflict before Tina fled, leaving Kisara wounded in Rentaro's arms. She revealed that since the Gastria attack 10 years ago, her kidneys had failed, leaving her dependent on artificial replacements and hours of dialysis each week. Drawing the curtains, Kisara awkwardly reached out, embarrassed, teasing about how hard it was to hold hands like lovers. Her face flushed while Rentaro stumbled through the tension, only for Enju to burst in, accusing Kisara of shamelessness.